We cried for help, only humans chose to stand with us. Ashes of hope, the sky above Elisar burned. The once golden domes of the capital shattered under the weight of orbital bombardment. The cries of civilians were drowned by the thunder of collapsing towers and the relentless scream of atmospheric entry from enemy dropships. The air stank of ozone, melted alloy, and terror. From a control bunker beneath the ruined council spire, High Strategist Kale of the Zentari Alliance watched as his species, and the dozens of others that had once formed the proud galactic concord, crumbled. They had begged for help. Across hundreds of light years, distress calls had been dispatched. The plea was simple: we are falling. Stand with us. But the replies had been colder than the vacuum between stars. Not our war. Your borders are too distant. We must protect our own. Even the Varelians, who had once boasted that an injury to one is an injury to all, responded only with silence. Only one race had answered. One species from a small, scarred planet on the spiral's edge, humans, and no one had expected them to mean it. Kale paced the reinforced war room, his Stallone fingers twitching as news filtered through from the surface. Eastern districts have fallen. The Drex are pushing through the tunnel systems. We've lost contact with Sector 4 in Aidrast, scales dulled with soot and blood. Kale stared at the star map above the console. They had weeks, maybe days, before the Zaro swarm enveloped the last of their defenses. The Concord had fallen apart under pressure, exposed for what it truly was, a loose network of self-interest. He exhaled. Any word from Earth? The aide hesitated. A fleet is en route. Human designation, Valkyrie Battle Group. Estimated arrival, 22 hours. Kale blinked. 22 hours felt like a lifetime. Or a death sentence. Get me the command link. The holocom crackled. A moment later, a human face appeared, stern, stubbled, eyes shaded by war. This is Commodore Alina Reyes of the UNS Resolute. We received your signal. We're coming. Kale had never heard a voice so calm in the face of extinction. No one else would. Human ships weren't the most elegant. The Zentari had built vessels that looked like works of art, curved hulls that flowed like rivers, propulsion systems that shimmered in the dark like bioluminescent creatures. Human ships looked like hammers. Big, dark, and bristling with weapons, and when they arrived, they hit like one. The sky above Elisar flared as the Resolute and its escorts punched through the blockade. Missiles screamed, kinetic slugs tore through enemy formations, and human pilots dove into the inferno like they'd done it 1,000 times before. They're insane, someone whispered in the bunker. No, Kale corrected, his throat tightening. They're human. Drop pods fell like meteorites, shaking the ground with every impact. From within, soldiers in exosuits emerged, some massive, others lean and fast, their visors glowing, their banners marked with Earth's flags and regimental insignias, and they fought. Against enemies that outnumbered them 20-1, they didn't retreat. They advanced. They bled beside Zentari defenders, pulled trapped civilians from rubble, and dragged wounded alien comrades to safety. One human medic, a young woman with half her armor melted off, used her own blood to keep a Seraph hatchling alive when no other transfusion worked. The humans didn't ask for payment. They didn't ask for guarantees. They just fought because no one else would. The line we hold night on Elisar wasn't dark anymore. The fires painted the horizon and the ground trembled with distant detonations. Kale stood beside Commodore Reyes on the shattered remains of Defense Line Theta, watching her soldiers dig in. You're risking everything, he said. Reyes shrugged. You asked for help. That's all we needed to hear. Why? He asked. No one else came. She looked at him, the glow of the fires reflecting in her eyes. Because we know what it's like to be alone. We've been the underdog. We've watched our cities burn and our people die. And when we say never again, we mean it. For anyone. Kale nodded slowly. He understood now why the Concord had failed. They had united in peace but fractured in war. The humans were different. They forged unity in war, absolutely. Here's part 4 and the final part of We Cried for Help. Only humans chose to stand with us. Humanity's fire. The final assault came at dawn. The Zaro swarm moved like a living tide, blotting out the rising light. Their war beasts thundered across the plains of Elisar Prime, and their skirmishers poured into ruined corridors like liquid shadow. But this time, the defenders didn't break, because the line wasn't held by diplomats or frightened militia. It was held by Earthborn fire and fury. Captain Hayes of the 117th Terran Shock Troopers stood atop a makeshift barricade, plasma rifle braced against his shoulder, yelling orders to a mix of humans and aliens. His voice cut through the chaos like a blade. If they want this world, they'll have to step over every last body on this wall. Beside him, Kale himself held a repeater rifle in his trembling claws. He'd never fought in close quarters before. But today it wasn't about rank. It wasn't about strategy. It was about survival. Missiles arced overhead. Human tanks repurposed for alien terrain rolled up alongside insectoid Seraph artillery walkers. A Goran gunner, massive and six-armed, loaded belts of ammunition into a human minigun as he growled, "We bleed together today, Terran." From above, Rhea's voice echoed through comms. "This is Resolute. Close fire support inbound. Brace yourselves." Kale looked up and saw death fall from the sky. Human gunships shrieked overhead, trails of flame behind them. Orbital drop cannons fired burning lances into the heart of the enemy. The ground shook, not from the Zaros, but from the power of humanity unleashed, and through the smoke and flame, the enemy finally broke. After the ashes 3 days later, the silence felt alien. The fires were out. The Zaros swarm was gone, routed, scattered across the stars, licking their wounds. And for the first time in decades, Elisar was still. The galactic concord would never return. But in its place, something stronger was born. A new council. A new alliance. Not of the strongest. Not of the most powerful, but of those who stood when others ran. Kale, now Speaker of the Reformed Accord, stood on the central platform in the rebuilt spire. His voice echoed across systems, broadcast to every race still listening. We cried for help. And all but one turned away. Humanity alone stood by us, not for profit, not for glory, but because it was right. Let the stars remember, when the night was darkest, it was Earth that brought the dawn. The camera turned to Commodore Reyes, standing beside Kale in dress uniform, a new medal shining over her heart. She didn't smile. She simply nodded, eyes distant, perhaps remembering every name she had to leave behind. Below the platform, thousands of beings cheered. Centauri, Goran, Seraph, even former enemies now sworn allies. And in the crowd, a small child, blue-skinned, wide-eyed, clutched a battered Terran flag, because sometimes the smallest world holds the fiercest heart, and when the stars cried out for help, only humans chose to answer.